Welcome to Bible Study 1711, where we receive the Word eagerly and examine the Scriptures. My name is Todd. I'm just a layman pulling from a stack of study Bibles and a list of lectures, seeking to understand and apply God's Word. This week, we're in Psalms again. We're reading another psalm from King David. He's called the Sweet Psalmist of Israel in the book of 2 Samuel. His songs or poems capture a spectrum of life, the goods and the bads, the highs and the lows. Today's psalm is one of the goods. It's titled, The All-Knowing, Ever-Present God. Let's read Psalm 139. Lord, you have searched me and known me. You know when I sit down and when I stand up. You understand my thoughts from far away. You observe my travels and my rest. You are aware of all my ways. Before a word is on my tongue, you know all about it, Lord. You have encircled me. You have placed your hand on me. This wondrous knowledge is beyond me. It is lofty. I am unable to reach it. Where can I go to escape your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I go up to heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in Sheol, you are there. If I fly on the wings of the dawn and settle down on the western horizon, even there your hand will lead me. Your right hand will hold on to me. If I say, surely the darkness will hide me, and the light around me will be night. Even the darkness is not dark to you. The night shines like the day. Darkness and light are alike to you. For it was you who created my inward parts. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I will praise you, because I have been remarkably and wondrously made. Your works are wondrous, and I know this very well. My bones were not hidden from you when I was made in secret, when I was formed in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw me when I was formless. All the days were written in your book and planned before a single one of them began. God, how precious your thoughts are to me, and how vast their sum is. If I counted them, they would outnumber the grains of sand. When I wake up, I am still with you. God, if only you would kill the wicked. You bloodthirsty men, stay away from me, who invoke you deceitfully. Your enemies swear by you falsely. Lord, don't I hate those who hate you, and detest those who rebel against you? I hate them with extreme hatred. I consider them my enemies. Search me, God, and know my heart. Test me and know my concerns. See if there is any offensive way in me. Lead me in the everlasting way. Psalm 139 celebrates the various attributes of God. The key word in this psalm is know. God knows us, and we know him. David begins this psalm by addressing God as Lord, all capitals. When Lord, all capitals, in the Old Testament is used, it stands for God's personal name, Yahweh, or some say Jehovah. This name comes from Exodus chapter 3, when Moses encounters the burning bush. We'll cover this scene in a future lesson, but here's a quick recap. Moses fled his place in Egypt and was working as a shepherd out in Mount Horeb. God speaks to Moses through a burning bush. There's a lot to draw from this encounter, but one thing that comes from it, we get God's personal name, Yahweh. This is translated, I am who I am. In this culture, knowing someone's name was to know something about them and to have a connection with them. Knowing someone's name was a symbol of knowing them in a personal way. Drawing from this idea, God isn't some distant or disconnected deity. He has made himself known to his creation. One commentary I read contrasted the big picture of God and our personal relationship with God. Here are some pictures from this psalm. Big picture. God knows everything. Personal picture. He knows me. Big picture. God is everywhere. Personal picture. God is everywhere with me. Big picture. God created everything. Personal picture. God created me. Several verbs are used in the first few lines. Know, understand, observe, are aware. In the original language, these verbs can be read as timeless truths. The idea speaks of God's eternal nature. His name is I am who I am. He's not trapped in the past. He's not bound to the future. He's always present, always now. He's outside of our idea of time. God is omnipresent. He's everywhere all the time. He's omniscient. He knows everything. David writes that the Lord knows our hearts, our minds, and everything about us. Not only does God know us, He's with us. David writes, "You have encircled me." The literal meaning of this phrase is behind and front. You have enclosed me. David wrote about being hemmed in by God, and he was thankful for God's close contact. Wherever he turned, he found God. He leaned on God's guidance and protection. Like he wrote in Psalm 23, "Your rod and your staff, they comfort me." Along with being encircled by God, David writes, "You have placed your hand on me." This refers to a gentle gesture as if giving assurance. David goes on to say that the wondrous knowledge of God is beyond him, that he's unable to reach it. God's attributes of omnipresence and omniscience are beyond our understanding. This makes me think of a scene in the movie Bruce Almighty, where Bruce is granted the role to become God for a short period of time. And in one scene, he begins to hear all the prayers of the world, and it instantly becomes overwhelming and unmanageable. I think of times in my life when I have my wife and both my sons saying something at the same time while the dog is barking. My brain is like, I'm not processing anything right now except for the dog barking. How does God hear a multitude of prayers at the same time? He's God. He's beyond us. He's omnipresent and omniscient. In verses 7 through 12, David writes about God's omnipresence. He makes it clear there's nowhere in the universe that God will not be present. There's nowhere too far, nowhere too dark. God will lead and hold his people. David asked, "Where can I go? Where can I flee?" God's presence is everywhere. This is a comfort to some and a sobering reminder to others. This reminds me of a story of Jonah. God calls him to go to Nineveh and to preach repentance. Instead of being obedient, Jonah heads in the opposite direction. But as we can see in the story, Jonah's detour doesn't escape him from God's presence. David writes, "If I go up to heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in Sheol, you are there." Sheol means place of the dead. It doesn't imply reward or punishment as we may think of heaven or hell nowadays. David was stating that God's sovereignty extends to the grave and even beyond. David uses opposites such as heaven and Sheol, east and west, to show that everything in creation is within God's reach. David writes, "Even there your hand will lead me, your right hand will hold on to me." God's authority stretches beyond the cosmos, and his rule doesn't have a limit. All of humanity is under his rule. Insert here the debate between sovereignty and free will, and we can divide ourselves pretty quickly. To be honest, I'm still searching and learning more about these topics. One of my favorite Christian rap lyrics comes from a Lecrae song, "Background." He says, "Some call it sovereign will. All I know is you the boss." Such a good line. David goes on to talk about light and dark. The darkness could be from the perspective of someone trying to hide from God. David writes, "Even the darkness is not dark to you. The night shines like the day. Darkness and light are alike to you." This takes me to one of my favorite college field trips. For a natural science class, we set out to explore a cave out in the backwoods of Tennessee. The first step was to wade across a chest-high river, which had this borderline aquaphobic, almost hyperventilating. I survived the river and descended into the cave. The part that sticks out to me is when the group stopped in a large cavern. We turned off our flashlights and sat in the darkness. Complete darkness. The kind of darkness that resets your eyes. The kind of darkness that you can't tell how far your hand is from your face. Though we couldn't see anything at all, the Lord sees through the darkness. No actions can be hidden from the Lord. Light and dark have no distinction to God. He transcends creation. David writes that God created his inward parts. The phrase inward parts is literally translated kidneys. The Hebrews thought of the kidneys as the center of a person's emotions and conscience, similar to how we see the heart. David writes that he is remarkably and wondrously made. This points to God's creation, testifying about his power and majesty. To see God's work, simply look around at his creation, from the obvious things we see down to the molecular level, and then out to the galaxies. We see God's power and majesty. David says he was formed in the depths of the earth. In many places, this phrase is associated with the grave, but here it refers to a mother's womb. David writes that God saw him when he was formless, long before he was born. David writes that God's thoughts toward him are precious and vast. God is personal with his creation. His thoughts toward us are precious, and they're more than we realize. How many thoughts does the Lord have toward us? David says it's more than the grains of sand. If you've been to a beach or even a sand pit, just imagine each grain of sand representing one thought that God has towards you. Add up all the grains, and it's still not enough to equal the amount of thoughts that God has towards you. It's astounding. David goes on to say, "When I wake up, I'm still with you." God's presence and relationship with us is never ending. From here, the psalm seems to take a sharp turn. God, if only you would kill the wicked, you bloodthirsty men, stay away from me. The first time I read this, I was a bit jarred, so I went to the commentaries to help me sort it out. Why did David's tone change from praise to vengeance so quickly? In essence, he's saying to God, I hate evil just as you do. He's lining up with God's way, and he despises any opposition to the Lord. David concludes the psalm with an open-hearted prayer. Search me, God, and know my heart. Test me and know my concerns. See if there is any offensive way in me. Lead me in the everlasting way. This is a prayer for God to search us. It's a prayer for God to lead us in his way. Let's keep this heart as we walk with the Lord. Thanks for joining Bible Study 1711. Let's receive the word with eagerness and examine the scriptures daily.